Look at that. Just like Royal Rumble, the countdown started and another show started. Episode
Woo!
71 of a gaming podcast. God damn. What a great Royal Rumble that is. I think
Oh
it's the
my
first
God.
Royal Rumble where I feel like people who don't watch wrestling were watching.
Yes, agreed. I mean, despite the like, say, so this is probably like this is officially my second Royal Rumble that I've ever watched because I only just got into wrestling over a couple years ago, but I was only watching WrestleMania, so I had no context as far as watching Royal Rumble, except for the viral clip that would happen during the Royal Rumble of I think 2022, and that's the one when Sammy hit Roman Reigns with a chair. And I remember seeing that clip and that pop of the crowd. That that was so addictive. That was like, oh, that was sort of. I think that was the beginning of this. I like this. I need to watch more of this. There's something happening here. And so watching now the past 2 years of Royal Rumble with you guys actually, which has been like kind of like my new favorite tradition of us doing getting together and then doing like a Royal Rumble draft, which is so much fun.
Complete mayhem.
Oh, totally. But it's like it was such a good Royal Rumble. I mean, like I think other than the tag team match, I think that was probably the only one that I was like, didn't really care much about. Yeah. But like the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes fight was great. And the women's and the men's Royal Rumble was fantastic. Not really a surprise winner for women's, but for men's, that was just pure pandemonium that I absolutely loved.
I don't know if you saw Raw or not, but they are not happy about the women's result.
Oh, I could probably imagine. I watched some clips of it, but I get it.
She could even choose like, you know what? You guys could boo me all you want, but you know, I actually really miss you guys. Boo!
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I
actually felt bad for her because I don't mind Charlotte. Yes, I know still that should be handed like you're going straight to the top and everything. Sure, I get it. Like but she is a big draw. I get it. You know, yes, your father is Ric Flair and everything, but
right. And she is like but
she's really talented.
Yeah,
as well.
she's a legend in her own right.
Legend in her own right.
And
exactly.
She's been in the locker room for a long time, and so
definitely help out like pave the way for the women's division as well.
Exactly, 100%. But I will say that it's interesting to kind of see that is how the women's went and how the men's went, because you would sort of think going into the Rumble that you would say it was either Charlotte. You could see women's was like, okay, Charlotte Flair or Cena, or Charlotte Flair and CM Punk, like any of the kind of the mainstays of the WWE right now, or at least legends essentially. So like if they were both declared winners, I would have been like, really? I would have kind of liked to see like a little bit of like a different sort of way to go. I think I also think that there are some very underrated talent in the women's division that definitely needed a little bit of a bit of a going over. That
NXT showed up.
Exactly. NXT, TNA, like there was some really amazing, like even bringing back Alexa Bliss, like that was so like that was a big pop as well. But I think that what I was more interested in, what like beyond the Charlotte Flair of it all, was literally what happened at Raw last night, where it was the kind of the qualifications for Elimination Chamber, and when Rhea interrupted Liv's and Io Sky's match, and then the conversation that Io and Rhea had at the end, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's a new rift in the storyline that I have that I'd be very interested in seeing kind of go through. Right now, there's no story for Charlotte. I think that's probably why people booed, because it's like, what's the point of her going to WrestleMania? We don't know.
That old school like WWE. Yeah, she just gets her title shot once again. You're like, what the hell?
Which is kind of going why it's like I think that the WWE doesn't still not really know what to fully do with the women's division if you're not Rhea Ripley, because like on the men's side with John Cena losing. Now you've got other people that basically the storylines you can build off of. You can build off of Punk, Roman, Logan Paul, and Seth, basically an Elimination Chamber. Or you can see Cena when he said he's declared he's going to compete in the Elimination Chamber. Like you can see the storyline of him trying to get to WrestleMania. Whereas you're right, like with Charlotte Flair, it just looked like she just got a free ticket, essentially.
No, honestly, definitely, you're definitely right about that. Like. For me, the Rhea and Io thing, I can see that being an elimination match.
I can see that too.
Right, you get to face me now, type of thing. So, but no,
which I would love to see. Like,
I would love to see that as
Io
well.
Is so like
she's
aerobatic,
so damn talented.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, and they've been old time. Like the two of them have fought before. Like, way back when Rhea was in her blonde hair days. So I'd be very curious to see like the two of them fight, because I always felt that with Rhea and Liv, there was always that aspect of you could tell that Rhea can very easily beat up Liv. It just 100%. So happens that Liv has like sometimes some good moves to be able to kind of like make it seem as if that she's able to beat up
Liv has
Rhea.
her backup. She has
the backup.
Ways.
That's the only thing that works.
Backup. She either has Raquel or she has Dom. So.
Yeah, but with Rhea and Io, like Io could hold her own 100%, and like against some of the biggest like the people. Obviously, there's a lot more women that are taller than her in this division, and so she kind of goes up against people that are twice her size essentially almost all the time. So we know that she can hold her own, and she knows how to be able to like how to utilize her body in a way that like it makes her very acrobatic, makes her very aerodynamic, essentially by being able to just jump from like massive feats. And I can see her basically like really giving it to Rhea. So I'd be very curious to see like what now a Rhea and Io Sky match would look like. So
maybe you might be seeing it right in front of your eyes. Just letting you know.
I can't wait. I'm hoping I can still get tickets close to the front, but right now I and Riley and Carrie
available. I was looking last night. I'm like, oh, there's some good options that are around 500. In the
well, that's how much I paid for my ticket right now. So I'm hoping to be able to talk to guest services. Maybe there's like the day of and be like, hey, is there anything that's close to the front that I can be able to jump into, but that I can bring my two friends with me? But we'll see. But,
there you go. Besides that, how I guess what's going on for you for the rest? What's going on with this name? What's happening here?
So this was part of the Royal Rumble party that we had. So I just find it funny that Steve and Riley are not here to basically to say anything, because they know that I'm
ironically.
But I challenged them. So they've been like, as Marcel knows, like both Riley and Steve have been kind of declared themselves as the undefeated Royal Rumble beer pong champions.
Even though they have lost, I've seen them lose.
Yep, exactly. But they're always
they're
always trying to find a way to show that they're one and they're undefeated.
That's right. Yeah.
But so I decided, never playing beer pong before, to challenge them to a 2-on-1 blind match. It's basically to the two of them against me. But every time that they would have to shoot, they'd have to shoot with their eyes closed. They could see to aim. They could look to be able to aim to where they need to go. But whenever they're throwing the ball, they have to basically close their eyes, and then they're just against me. And I won. That's right.
Yeah, I was there for that. I was a witness.
Yep.
And
I did not think I was going to win.
Truly undefeated.
That's true, because I didn't do it. I didn't. They kept asking me. They kept begging me for.
They were begging. And you're like, you're like Gunther. You're like, what do I gain from this?
Exactly. What do I gain?
What do I gain from facing you guys again? I already won. I beat the best. I'm done, so.
Exactly. Like, when was anyone else has ever gone up to done a rematch the same night as they win? No, that doesn't happen. You have to wait until next year.
There's no Money in the Bank briefcase here.
Yeah. And also, I kind of declare myself on the Saudi Arabia matches. Like, they don't really count.
They count now.
They count now, I guess.
Their own PLE. They're getting a major PLE down the road that people are not too happy about, because they're like, "What the hell? Why is this one getting?" I can't remember which one it is they're getting, but like I think it's like
I think it's Money in the Bank. I think
it's Money in the Bank.
Yeah, because I know they've got Crown Jewel, and then they've got King and Queen of the Ring. That's always been theirs, but they have taken another one. It's of the main sort of PLEs, but I just can't remember which one. So I don't know. It was kind of one of those. I'm like, hey, it was so much. It was fun, and so I'll play into the being the undisputed Royal Rumble blind champ.
There you go. That's all that matters. So you know what? There's not too much going on, except BioWare decides to nothing's going on. Let's just make news for ourselves. And it's not good news, sadly. Dragon Age Valgard Delve BioWare reportedly down to fewer than 100 employees following layoffs and staff exits. Steve, take this away. I know you have a strong opinion on this.
So here's the thing. I had said, because I have been playing Dragon Age Veilguard since the beginning of this year, or actually no, near the end of last year. But I've been starting to play it. I'm about 16 to 17 hours in. I've been really enjoying that game. Yeah, sure, it may not be, I guess, to everyone's cup of tea as far as Dragon Age, compared to previous Dragon Age games in the past, but I like the more action style RPG. I like that it's not necessarily like the story is very linear. It's very much kind of like in the Mass Effect sort of style, where basically you could just follow the golden path all the way through without having to do a lot of side missions, and you can still be able to play through the story. So you never lost in any way, which I always felt with previous, even just playing Dragon Age Inquisition. I felt I don't know where to go next, and that was a big problem that I had with the game. Whereas, so I understand that, but I also do understand that that's not everyone's cup of tea when it comes to Dragon Age, or at least how they've done in the past. And I thought, when I've said this at the time on my own show, but I've said this, that I feel that BioWare at that point was kind of like that the John Wick meme, where the question asking BioWare is like, do you people keep asking me if I think I'm back or coming back. I always felt that Dragon Age of Veilguard was them asking that question, and then whatever their next follow up to that, whether it was Mass Effect 5 or another Dragon Age, that was going to be BioWare saying that, answering that question of, yeah, I think we're back. But now that basically, obviously, Dragon Age did not sell to EA's expectations. It sold half of what they were expecting, which again, still 1.5 million units is not something to be able to shake a stick shake a stick at. That is still impressive. It may not be as impressive as other games, but it's still pretty good considering that Anthem was a big failure, and actually BioWare hasn't had a good solid game in the past over decade. So there was that.
Did they mention how many they wanted to sell?
It was 3 million. It was supposed to be it was like about 50% was below expectations of what they hoped to sell. But also the thing is too is that because then BioWare kind of had this weird statement of they put this weird statement of being like, okay, we've moved some people to other parts in EA. They didn't mention anything about layoffs. We're moving some people parts to EA that were originally temporary, but now they're permanent, and we've got the right amount of people we need for Mass Effect 5. And then the story is kind of coming out of people being laid off. There was about over 24 people that were laid off. And then it came out that essentially 100 people were moved to either other EA positions or were let go. So that would basically equal to half the studio size compared to what it was at during, I think, height of its production in Dragon Age of Veilguard. So it's half the studio gone, and then the other half of the studio working on Mass Effect 5. I thought that was an absolute boneheaded move from an executive spot, because if they say, "Oh, we got the right amount of people for Mass Effect now," what's going to happen when you're basically a couple of years down and you're going to need to hire those people back?
Yep.
Because then, because
they're not going to be available, they need to get someone else.
Not only just that, but not only someone else, but then they can be able to offer those same positions to junior people that at a lower salary. So that basically is another shady practice that essentially that they could easily do. I just think that right now BioWare is in trouble. BioWare is kind of fucked, and I think that it just they couldn't keep the talent that they had, and the talent that they do have that is running Mass Effect 5 was some of the people that were they were responsible for the pitfalls of Anthem to begin with, and yet they're brought back to we're going to steer the ship for Mass Effect 5. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I also just feel that it's this, it was one of those executive decisions, especially with Anthem, be like, hey, we want an evergreen title here, make this game, and instead of them being like, hey, we want to make this game, they're like, yeah, but how's it going to generate money over the years for us? And that's what led down to Anthem's many other games downfall as well. For Dragon Age, I don't know, how you been. You say you started this year, how you been enjoying it? I already completed the game, so
I've been loving it. I mean, it's definitely as my first official Dragon Age game. Yeah, there's stuff that I'm missing that I know that I would have gotten more context if I played the previous games. But to me, I feel like that it does a good job of introducing Dragon Age, the world of Thetis, to newcomers. But then it also helps with lore. Like you can go into the lore aspect and learn more about what kind of things you missed. And I feel like that it's also a much more streamlined experience. So for someone who like I prefer Mass Effect over Dragon Age, it has that familiar sort of play style of it is more action RPG. It is more streamlined as far as story. It's not less of a open world, basically picking a waypoint on the map and going to do a quest over there, and then you do some side missions here and there. It's very much you just go straight through this whole story. And like I said, I'm about 17 hours in right now, and I would say it's probably not my absolute all-time favorite game, but it's definitely high up there. I would say I've been enjoying it more than I haven't been. And any times I've sort of haven't really been, it's been more of, okay, I don't really know I want to be able to explore this area that much, so I'm just going to focus in more on the story right now. But then every time I do, then it would always unlock another aspect, be like, oh, that's cool, I want to go and do this. And so it encourages you to still do side quests that actually could be really fun, for as well as being able to jump into the main story. So yeah, I've been loving it, and I definitely could see myself playing it all the way through.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. Like you'll talk to one person and it unlocks like 3 more companion quests. You're like, oh, what? Like, all right, let me go do this. Like, I had a really great way to kind of pull you in, and like it kind of like I guess besides the writing, which is kind of on the weaker side. I don't know what you think about that as well, but on the writing especially for some characters, it's just blunt and straight to the point. I do appreciate how the game, because usually like these style of games and this type of world, like I always call it the Witcher world, where everyone's just talking very Renaissance. I'm like, for me as a person, I'm like, bro, I am gonna fall asleep here. I can't pay attention to this. I don't know what this means or what that means. The same reason of a certain game we were talking about. It explains it. I'm like, oh, thank you for the explanation, because I needed that. But then with this game, I find it's kind of like a merger of like modern day speech and Renaissance speech, which I kind of appreciate. I'm like, oh damn, they're saying oh shit and everything, and then but like they're speaking in their regular current tongue. I can kind of understand why they're upset or why they needed to go do this and everything. So like in a way, like yes, it may have kind of held your hand, but like I kind of like, for me, I needed that a little bit, because I didn't really like, I can't like for this Renaissance world, or I'm not the biggest Dragon Age fan. And maybe for like those who are the biggest Dragon Age fans, they're like, well, this is like a like baby's first Dragon Age type of thing. Like, I know I saw some people call it that and everything, but like it's still a Dragon Age game. It had a great story. The presentation was great. The combat's fun and everything. So I'm kind of surprised by it, but I think it's just the whole like, like, oh, why are they forcing this on us and everything, kind of has its toll and everything on that.
And I don't know if that was ever like the reasoning as to why sales didn't hit for folks. I feel like that actually it didn't really, as much as they kind of like put into the marketing, it just felt like it kind of came and went. I mean, I think we kind of talked about in our own, like sort of group chat that essentially that there was a lot of games that came out in October, and that was one of them. And if it was left on its own, like I think Dragon Age would have had a very good shot of selling really well. But I think because of just how stacked that October was, that by the end of the month, I mean, you're already kind of thinking about other games of the year, not necessarily like trying to be able to jump into another sort of big RPG like Dragon Age. So I think it's like over time, I think it'll be appreciated a lot more. But I think that at the moment, at the moment when it kind of launched, it just didn't hit. But I don't think that that's any fault of the unfortunate vocal minority that thought that this game was just terrible, quote unquote, because it's not. It really is not. And I don't think that affected sales.
No, I haven't played Dragon Age yet, but I feel like this is just a repeat story similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I think you kind of hit the nail with the hammer there, Steve. I think it's more on marketing. Like in both instances, I feel like the game wasn't marketed, and I think these studios are really used to what is kind of stale marketing at this point. We know the gaming industry moves so quickly. I know, it's more with like maybe how they're engaging streamers and media needs to change. I think, this is a trend, and it's a trend for a reason, whether it is that expectation of 3 million in the first 2 months compared to what it performed for Dragon Age, which was 1.5 million, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it is that, games no longer necessarily are going to hit really big when they first launch, unless there's something like GTA 6,
Sure.
Right? And it's more like it's a longer road for that, and maybe studios need to kind of adjust how they see their release calendar and the expectations for that, because like Dragon Age, Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't, it had, both games had some issues, but writing, but pretty much the game for Final Fantasy, which I experienced, it was a good game. It had great things that expanded on the first one, but it just didn't hit for some reason. And again, this new age of gaming has definitely, I think, forced studios to really assess themselves more. And sometimes when you have big companies like this, big studios like this, they're slower to react, other than layoffs, which is unfortunate. But they're slower to be, they're more reactive than taking the initiative to change things prior to. With BioWare in this situation, they did do something to try to mitigate as many layoffs. So everyone that was put into loan positions into EA, now they are in those permanent roles with EA. So that's good. But I just feel like this isn't the end of this type of story. We really need to figure out, these studios really need to figure out what is going on, because it also just allows, once they know what the release plan is, as consumers, it allows us to really enjoy these games and not see titles that people love just now go on the back burner for these studios because they think it underperformed based on their expectations in an older model.
Yep. No, I agree with you on that one. And I think the comparison of that in Final Fantasy VII, I think it's apt, but we're also kind of it's not necessarily oranges to oranges, because we're talking about a game that essentially is being remade from 20 years ago. So in essence, Final Fantasy has been around for much longer than what this game would have been. But I could definitely see the potential, the comparisons between the two to a certain degree. I think that marketing definitely does come to a big part of it, and unfortunately right now, as AAA is becoming a little bit not a little bit, it's definitely becoming unsustainable in its current form. Look, when you have games that essentially that are coming out at the same time, that some of them are from either smaller studios or lesser known studios, or even just complete indies that are taking the industry or the attention by storm, it is harder for a game that would have if Dragon Age was on its own in the 1 month that it released, or that it would still have the same staying power a decade ago, I think it would have sold extremely well. But because it has competition across the entire industry, so not just AAA but also indies as well, I think that we need to sort of look at, okay, the way we market at AAA games is changing too. And right now, BioWare hasn't had a modern game in this kind of newish era. And then I would say newish era, basically post the pandemic era, they're still playing by, I think, the old 10-decade-old playbook of how to promote their games. And unfortunately, EA is kind of in that same position too. They're getting better at it with EA Originals and with some of the games stuff from Respawn and stuff like that. I think that they definitely have their own successes. But I think that they're seeing that obviously with FC25 not selling a huge basically a huge amount as they did near the end of the last year. We're starting to kind of see that the annualized sports franchises may be kind of going away, which has been EA's bread and butter for well over a decade or more. I think that we're starting to see a shift in how basically attention. I think I know we're going to talk about Xbox in a bit, but I think that's why we're seeing the Xbox saying that they are not Game Pass is not competing with PlayStation or Nintendo. or Steam. They're competing with things like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus because they're competing for attention. And right now, you can't just sort of take like a big franchise like Dragon Age or even Final Fantasy unless it's word of mouth that's been really, really good. That you like, that's the unfortunate thing too, is that it's unfortunate. Like AAA games have to be a 9 or a 10 out of 10 in order for people for it to sell. Because otherwise, if it comes at a 7 or an 8, then people aren't really then people aren't interested in it, because even if it is like a well-known IP like Dragon Age or like Star Wars with Star Wars Outlaws. Like, I think we're seeing that the higher ups essentially are thinking that, oh, it's Star Wars, it's going to sell extremely well, and we're going to set our expectations that way. But then when it doesn't hit that expectations, then it's reported as it's a fault of the game and not of the expectations of the studio. And I think the BioWare was in the same thing, where like an EA were like, oh, we're going to sell 3 million copies of Dragon Age the Veilguard. It's a guaranteed, and yet it only sold half. Yeah. And so they're
and I kind of feel like with something like that, like when you just assume, or like, oh yeah, this will sell many copies and everything, I feel like you kind of focus more on the date than like quality of the game. But instead of being like, because that
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you kind of just focus more on like, all right, we need this out because we need X amount of dollars for our physical. And like, just throw this game out because, you know, it will guarantee make money. And then like, we're like, hey, we need more time. That's too bad. We'll patch it later. We just need it out. And then, but then when that initial patch, that comes out to fix the game comes out, you already forgot about the game. People don't even know that Star Wars still has DLC coming out for it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still a business, right? Like, I'm not saying it has to be solely focused on that. And like, when you look at how apps are developed or software, like, they have the same mentality. There's always patch updates because they need to make back a certain amount of money before a certain amount of time and keep their shareholders' expectations there. So like, yes, but I think what would help mitigate that is a revamp of how games are marketed. And yeah, like Steve, to your point, like, I think Final Fantasy definitely has like a huge legacy that helped it sell a bit more, but was still under the expectations of the studio, right? And Dragon Age, it's been how long has Dragon Age been around now? It's been a while.
I think they're mid 2000s.
Xbox, Xbox 360 days.
Yeah, so like just over a decade or about a decade.
It's about over 2 decades.
2 decades now. Yeah.
I know. I used to think that 30 years ago was still like 1980s. Yeah. So I'm like, nope, that ain't the case anymore.
We old, Camille. We old.
So like, I do think, it's not necessarily apples to apples there, but I do think there's a lot of similarities, and there is competition. You're absolutely right. Indies, you have other titles, but there's always been competition. Maybe not at the scale, because it was much more. It was more of a monopoly on like how like you knew like the big releases, you knew what would be a hit. But again, things like streaming and streamers and Twitch like make indie games very popular that could just pop off in an instant, right?
Yeah.
I don't see, because in the marketing for Dragon Age, we were talking about it. I think the last time I was on the podcast, or maybe we were just talking about it last time we saw each other, but we were like, it's crazy. Dragon Age is like coming out soon. Like, I didn't even think about it. And the same with Final Fantasy. Other than commercials you would see, that was really it. You like, how are they engaging influencers? Is it unique? Are there like huge influencer events? Yes, but like maybe the type of things that they need to be doing at these events. Like, I look at the esports scenes in something like Rainbow Six or Call of Duty, when they are marketing like a new year to influencers, they have a huge influencer event or tournament and have them at a huge complex where they're competing against each other, and it's huge. Like, it's a huge community event rather than like these smaller experiences with local. Well, they have those too, but it's like a mixed marketing event. And I just feel like some of these, and that's for a game that's ongoing service, right? So those are games that are ongoing service. So it's a little bit different how they can market it, and maybe the marketing dollars that they allocate to new seasons. But it's just like, do AAA titles, is there something that they can learn at like with titles that are ongoing service
that
are like that have to stay fresh among the competition. It's the same type of gameplay, the same community, but still make it a big moment, right? And it's so sad because at the end of the day, if they don't figure this out, we all lose in the end. As game enthusiasts, as media who cover this, as just fans, like, we lose out because they just pull money back and decide not to have games go ahead that maybe they planned and were great ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point too, like when you said, we said like we started to see like these kind of smaller events. I mean, even Final Fantasy, like with Rebirth, like, yeah, they had a few sort of like influencer events to be able to preview the game, but there wasn't really a lot. But then on that side of that, okay, it released and was critically acclaimed, and people were interested in it. Even still, Square Enix said that it did not meet sales expectations. So it was one of those, like, again, like they're already thinking about going off of PlayStation exclusivity and going basically potentially day and date with PC, or even there's still the rumor that they could be Xbox. Yeah. So I think it's just, again, it's like I think what it comes down to is what we're all saying is that I think the marketing of AAA games has changed, or has to change, because right now they're still playing off the old playbook that used to work, but not any, like, used to work because they were the only game in town. Yeah. Indies wasn't really that, like, you get maybe one, maybe two pop off a year, but the AAA still ran the industry. But now you have not only like those indie games or AAA games, but as you said, we have those games of service, like those live games of like Rainbow Six or Call of Duty. We're still like, or Fortnite. And then we're also seeing gamers that are playing games that are 6 years old, and they're not necessarily playing new games each year. So again, I think it's just we're at a state where if a game that is made by one person can be able to become multiple game of the year award winning across the entire industry, like Balatro, like that's who they're competing against now. Like they're not competing against, like, the Dragon Age isn't competing with the next like Final Fantasy, or they're competing against Balatro. So when you have that, it's like it again. I think these companies are having to be able to. I think have to reset their sales expectations because the industry has changed now, or B, go back to the drawing board as far as like, it's kind of like define what it is as AAA that they want to be able to create. Like, I think I saw an article. I think Steven Totillo had I think he had some upcoming articles, or I saw something he was talking about, that he was talking to the CEO of Saber Interactive, and he said that you can't have like the days of the $200, $300, $400 million budget like AAA games is not sustainable anymore. Like, you can't. So make these smaller games, make the sort of the bigger risks of kind of smaller experiences with smaller teams, because right now that's the only way to be able to at least make money in the industry.
That's how it used to be, especially on the EA side of things. We had EA Big, we had SSS Tricky, NFL Street, Def Jam and everything. And like, I'm sure those projects didn't cost as much and everything, but like it's the same, like, it's like I'm going to bring in sports into this. You can't just buy like, well, let me buy the most expensive player and he'll carry the whole team. I'm like, well, is he going to play every position? Like, how's that going to make any sense? Like, you need everyone, like, you need a nice balance of things. Yes, you can have like your Dragon Age or your even Assassin's Creed. Like, this is make or break for Ubisoft right here. Like, you need you can have like your pillar games and everything, but you need other games to help support that game. And not every game needs to be like $100 million worth of made games and everything. Like, all right, we got to make all our money back now. Like, you can make your indie games. Like, where's, like, I know Sami-Jo was calling for Child of Light. Where's that game? Or like another Rayman game or something. Just, you don't have to have like every big budget game and everything. And something with Final Fantasy, I find that there's more publicity for it this time around on PC than it was for PlayStation. Yeah, and like, I don't know if it's because of the initial performance. I know like there was some people were like it's very blurry, or like I don't want to do 30. And like that was the limitations, and that was just due to the fact that it's like, oh, like, well, this is my. It's like if they were like in a relationship, they're like, well, sorry, this is what my girlfriend wanted. Sorry, I just did what she asked. Okay, I wanted to do more, but she's like, no, this is what I want. Like, okay, all right, it's your birthday.
I think it's also I'm sorry, everything looks like I'm in sepia right now, like a sepia filter. But anyways.
It's all good. I mean, hey, you have the light on. That's right.
Camille, are you safe? Do you blink if you're safe? Are you in danger?
Where's Adam right now?
Yeah, where's Adam right now?
Is Adam in the house with you?
I'm not. I'm in Boston, but anyways.
What are you doing in Boston? Oh, wait, can you say?
No, I can. Rainbow Six stuff in Boston.
Oh, cool.
Here.
Awesome.
Visiting my cousins. I'm at my cousins right now.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna get some water.
Yeah. But I think it's like marketing. It is creative marketing as well. So like how they market, what we touched upon, like even like stuff that are like memeable in Final Fantasy. I feel like they could have had much more fun with that on social media, like creating an account that's like Cloud and all he does is brute like the whole time. Like
exactly.
Like that would I think catch a lot of people's attention because there's so much competition. I think it's the expectation of the studio realizing that they are in a new market, and I think because of inflation, even though they were making millions and millions of dollars, they definitely probably upped their expectation because of inflation, and maybe they need to kind of meet in the middle a bit more, but understandably make money. So the expectation of the amount of money that they're supposed to make from these games. So marketing expectation of the amount of money. I think also timeline and how games have changed, like we talked about, like the fact that we do have a lot of backlog, and it's actually not necessarily a serious problem, but it is something that is very true to gamers because of the amount of games out there. So having like a refresh of like, okay, when the PC version comes out, we're going to be marketing again. It's going to be fun. And, gamers may not see this game in the first month. Like a lot of gamers may not see this game in the first month of release. How do we adjust our marketing strategy for that? And of course, just like being a fan of games, like managing all of the numbers with putting out a quality game. I think, in a dream world, if studios could get that down, we'd be happy and they would be successful in the long run.
Like the expectations, it's kind of like it's crazy to me how they thought like. I mean, I know they thought they're gonna sell a lot, which they did and everything, but you had the not only pandemic, but you also had the help of PS4. Like when I did my meetup and we had Dan Clancy there, the CEO of Twitch, I knew my next meetup. I'm like, all right, I expect fewer people here because there's no Dan Clancy the next one. Even I knew the numbers were going to be like lower and everything, but I'm not going to be like, what? Why is there not 500 people here? What's going on? Like, why did this happen? Well, I'm like, no, there was a bigger, like, there was a more outreach, more I'll call like, in the same case for them, like PS4 and a PS5 conversion. Why, like, how were they surprised by this? Is only on PS5 only. You had a slow start to even sell the consoles because of due to the pandemic and things. Why are they surprised by this? And then you're on one console. Like, obviously everyone's going to be like, I'll just wait for PC. Like everyone, like that was me.
I think they were kind of relying on essentially brand recognition of that. It's Final Fantasy. It's also Sony. On Sony. It's a Final Fantasy VII remake. So because that sold well, but then again, as you said, that sold. I think it came out in 2020. Was Final Fantasy VII remake? Yeah. So yeah, you're right. We had the pandemic numbers. So I mean,
plus PS4, and PS4 was everywhere at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that it seems as if Microsoft kind of like has seen the writing on the wall for a while and gone the multi-platform route, which is where I think Sony is kind of like looking into, obviously with their releases on PC. Nintendo is always going to Nintendo, and they're going to do well regardless, I think. But I think that the writing is on the wall in that multi-platform seems to be the way to go, at least for right now. Like being on PC is also still a big money maker for a lot of studios, whether you're
like a game to perform well on PC.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact that we also see, like, we kind of, in a way, we kind of shifted our mentality of how games do well. Because before we didn't really have the numbers, except when we waited for Matt Pescatella to basically to drop the NPD numbers of the month. But now we're kind of seeing in real time whether a game does well based off of their Steam, who's currently playing it on Steam, and that's where we started to see like the bad, like kind of the bad mojo around Concord was because it was like less than 100 people playing it at a given point. So we're starting to see that PCs becoming a much bigger market, and also as well, all the hardware, both on the console side and on the PC side, are producing relatively similar results. Like it's not like where we used to have it, where PCs can produce these massive like worlds and ray tracing, and it just looks much better than their console counterparts. Now you look at a game that's on a PS5 Pro versus on a PC, and you like to any casual player, they would never be able to tell the difference. So right now, the ownage of needing a console to play games, other than you just want that sort of walled in, very easy, just pick up and play experience, that is still going to be needed. But right now, it's a choice of it's a gluttony of choice for us, and I think like gamers are the ones who are making these decisions instead. Whereas like the other way around, it used to be that if you just market a game well, it's going to be seen by so many eyeballs. Then okay, yeah, they're going to sell well because of either established IP or it's a sequel or it's from a big kind of like studio kind of thing. So I don't know. I just think that it just people need to set their expectations properly. That's basically what it comes down to.
And just to mention on the PC side of things, it's gonna get really interesting on the PC side of things. Like yes, people have own custom PCs. There's strong PCs you can buy out there, but also you have handhelds as well. Those are in the PC realm as well.
Absolutely.
And with DLSS, just to nerd out for a minute here, someone brought up Spider-Man from 360p all the way up to 4K using DLSS 4. Like that is crazy, and then it's running great and everything. So, like you need to bring out your game. You need to bring if you want success, if you want the numbers you really want. You got to bring your game everywhere. Yes, bring it on the consoles, but also bring it on PC because people will be like, "Oh, I could fly and I could go on a plane and play Spider-Man if I wanted to and everything." Like if you want, you can't expect big results if like the base is not there for Xbox or PlayStation or even Nintendo.
Yeah, there's more PCs out in the wild than there are consoles. Even when talking about even a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I still think I think there are a lot of PlayStations out there, PlayStation 5s out there.
Sure. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think having that, the year of the release and having that shortage of chips and availability of how much PlayStations could be produced, and the same with Xboxes, I think that really did hurt this gen consoles.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. Yes, we know it'll probably sell like crazy because there's a lot of kids that are going to be wanting it and playing on it whenever it comes out. But I also
kids. Whoa, kids! it's us, Camille. It's going to be us, Camille.
But I think it's also going to be interesting to see because then we will see like without the limitations so much. Well, tariffs we could see. Yeah.
I mean that is going to be a very interesting point.
Right? Like, if they make the call to wait before, if that is, something that will happen and maybe wait for the release till that's resolved, if they decide to do that, or if it's not happening, just release it. It's going to be very telling because, what's happening in the world and what's happening in the economy does affect sales at the end of the day, right? And, I think with those consoles releasing, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X releasing just on the heels, the pandemic, it just did not help.
No, totally. I think you mentioned that definitely the tariffs, but I think you're absolutely right. Like I think like the hardware shortage because of the pandemic and all that, and then the tariffs are going to have a big part of that. I think that that's going to have a longer lasting effects in that. It's going to become harder to be able to get consoles produced. It's going to get harder to be able to because the console prices are going to have to go up because of the tariffs. So it's just inevitable that that's going to happen. So it's going to become even like the price. Then at that point, the price difference between spending money on a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 6 or whichever it's going to be when it starts going into like high end or to PC prices. That's when you're going to start to see, I think, a switch where it's like, oh, okay, I could spend $1,000 on a PlayStation 5 right now, but I could basically that's half of a pretty decent PC that I could be able to play a lot more than just PlayStation games on like that. Yeah. People are going to start to kind of pay with their wallet in that sense of like when there's more variety and more options. And I think this could set up Xbox being like, hey, we got Game Pass. And
we're everywhere.
That is becoming a much more attractive. It's considering the fact that I don't know if you guys had talked about it a few weeks ago, but when the news of potentially GTA 6 being sold for $100 US, like when you're getting into those prices, if you think about it, if $100 will pay for 5 months of Game Pass, playing as hundreds of games that are on there, plus at least if you bought it from now until June. Or that will cover you from now until June, which you're going to get Avowed, you're going to get South of Midnight, and you're going to get Doom: The Dark Ages day one. Yeah. Like that is a much more like sure, GTA 6 is going to sell regardless. I'm not saying that it's like Game Pass is going to take GTA's lunch. That is never going to happen. But when we're getting into recession, inflation type conversations and saving money where you can, the value is in Game Pass versus like spending only $100 on GTA 6.
And you know what, Steve? That makes sense. But us gamers don't always make sense.
You're absolutely right.
But you do have a point. The value there is with Xbox Game Pass. But what I think is something to what you're talking about, I do think it'll take maybe 5 to 10 years to get to that point. And a lot of these studios can't wait that long. I think it's a very trying time for a lot of studios. And Xbox is included in that, right? I think, our generation, when, they have kids, if their kids start to get older, because we're well aware of PC, we are, we grew up with PCs in our house and grew up alongside PCs, right? I think maybe we will influence purchasing for like our kids' PCs, as maybe their first intro to gaming. I think where the market is right now, it's still that entry console because it's easily playable. It's still more affordable because I just went through a graphics card update and oh my God, it was expensive.
Where'd you go from?
Oh my God, I went I had a really old graphics card. It was like a GX.
Oh.
Yeah.
You started with G? God damn.
So it was really old, and the only reason why I updated because I don't play PC necessarily for the graphics. I'm just not that kind of gamer. I just play it because I'm trying to get back. I used to play FPSs on PC, and I'm trying to get back to doing that because I'm such a console player. And it just got to a point where they're like, "Oh, we don't support
that card."
I was like, "Oh, okay." And then with that, everything else in my PC is pretty much pretty high level for a mid-level PC. But it was just a graphics card. I was like, after the pandemic, I'm like, everything's too high for graphics card right now. I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait any longer.
So which one did you get?
I got the, oh my gosh, I need to remember right now. I got the A.
Does it start with a 4 or 5?
No, it's a 5.
Okay. Oh, you got the 5 series.
Wow.
You got lucky on the 5 series?
Yeah,
there you go.
So I definitely am playing Marvel Rivals on it. And I'm going to play some R6 and COD. So I'm
glad you're getting double digit, frames instead of 6 frames on your GTX card that you had before. When you said G, I was like, oh my God, Camille.
It was really bad. And I was just like, I shouldn't even talk about it because that's shameful. But I didn't really play PC games before.
Neither did I really.
Console. Yeah, but then I was like, oh, I'm mostly at my desk anyways. I always want to boot up and I want to get back to playing my FPSs on PC. But
and it will help with streaming as well.
Exactly.
Your card,
Yeah.
Well, that was also the other reason, opening up Twitch and the stuttering and the freezing. I was like, okay, this should not. I'm living in 2000. I'm living in
you made it. Yeah. You made it.
That's a couple years ago when I needed to I had what was it? 25 gigabits of internet or whatever it was, like megabits, or 25 megabits.
Yeah.
It was like that was like it was just barely enough to be able to like be at HD quality to stream. But I'm like, oh man, it would take me forever to be able to download anything. And now I'm like on fiber, and I'm just like, where like internet connect like issues? What? Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember the day of streaming where like if I had to update the game, I'd be like, well, we're not playing this game today.
Exactly. Yep.
It would just buffer your stream.
I went from that where I had to download an update or download a game the night before to be able to play it on stream. But to now where I can, while I'm streaming, I can download it and it's downloaded in 10 minutes.
You can download it and watch a YouTube video and still be streaming at the same time without no problem.
But that's awesome. Cool PC. I'm looking forward to seeing what games are going to play on it.
Oh, thank you. And that's what I've been
Balatro.
Balatro. Gets a 50 series, and then she plays Balatro.
Yeah, no, but
those jokers need all the pixels it can get.
True. Very true.
But like going back to marketing, right? You look at Balatro, who also didn't really market itself.
All word of mouth.
Yeah, that's all it was.
All word of mouth, and has a hilarious social media presence.
Yep.
And, like, it worked for them, right?
I think the only marketing that they actually actively did was when they did the videos with Ben Starr playing as the Joker.
Playing as the Joker. Well, and that's the thing too, right? I think there's different expectations towards an indie and how it's marketed. So when people see like there's no marketing, it's all word of mouth, or you see Ben Starr and you're like, what's going on? That's an interesting way to market the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more intriguing. Where we've been seeing decades and decades of very similar video game marketing for AAA titles, and I think it's getting exhausting if it hasn't got exhausting. Back in the day when E3 used to have the booth girls, it's like that was your marketing, right?
Yeah.
And we went through an overhaul of that because, I mean, be a feminist, right? Why not?
Yeah. No, it was the right thing to do. That's the reason.
It was the right thing to do, right?
It reminds me of that Simpsons skit. Do you come with the car? You know? Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's a good pull. That was a good pull for that one.
It was a good one. But yeah, it's like I think they really need to reevaluate the industry. It's been a very lucrative industry, but there's obviously a shift in that over the last few years coming out of that pandemic. The post-pandemic age has definitely had its toll on the industry, and it's like we need to see these studios really sit down and figure it out. Because even something like Game Pass could only win if studios buy in.
Sure.
That are non-Xbox studios, and they need multiple of the studios to come in.
Well, they got EA. Pretty much almost on a lock-in for Ubisoft at this point. But I mean, who knows what's going to happen with them as soon as it gets sold. I don't. I mean, it's inevitable, like, right? Like, I think it's going to happen by this year. Ubisoft's going to be bought.
Assassin's Creed could bring them back up. Who knows? You know what's so crazy about Assassin's Creed? Because I know people are like upset, but like, hey, they're disrespecting that, disrespecting this. In Assassin's Creed 2, you can beat up the Pope. He's actually a boss in the game. You're fighting the Vatican in Assassin's Creed 2, but that's always like, hey, he knocked over a lamp. That's disrespectful. I'm like, come on, man. What is happening? You know, draw the line somewhere. This is ridiculous.
I mean,
the Pope.
It's true. I've yet to be able to play them. That's why I'm hoping for them to be able to actually like do remakes of some of the originals, because I want to play those originals, but I can't because of accessibility. That's a whole other conversation of itself. However, I think Shadows is going to be the bit, like, that's going to be the make or break for them. But anyway, that's getting off topic. But I think we're kind of in that interesting point. I mean, Camille, when you said it earlier about like we just have so many games to be able to play and like in our backlog, like that's what I'm looking at right now. Like I'm looking at least about 10 games that I'm currently just jumping in and out of because of I've either heard good things about them or they've just been sitting on my hard drive since I got it and I've not touched it yet. So I mean, granted, we're kind of in a bit of a lull period. I think once we kind of get Avowed out there, I think it's we're going to start to see a lot more games are going to be like people are going to be very interested in. I mean, hell, even we're talking about indies and just how they're marketed. Like we have Hello Kitty like Island Adventure right now that people are just freaking in love with it.
Hello Kitty.
That's not a AAA game. But
I played at Summer Game Fest. That is game of the year right there.
But that's the thing.
Hello Kitty.
That's the conversation we're having. It's like that game looks like to be game of the year for people. I'm like, what winning?
People want another. Animal Crossing. People want another Animal Crossing. That's
exactly
what it shows you.
But is it that we as gamers have become too meme? Like we love memes that we have began to like meme our whole industry to a point that now it hurts us where we're looking towards game of the year as being Hello Kitty. Like did this just start as people like, you know what, Hello Kitty for the win? Which I think honestly around Summer Game Fest it kind of did. Like it was like people are like, okay, sure, and Hello Kitty.
But when you played it, I was like, oh, this is actually really good. It was really good.
Good game. But I mean, like, it's kind of like that, right? Like, even Balatro, I think it might have captivated people just because it's, like, weird. You see Ben Starr. It's like, what is this pixelated game that shouldn't look like this, right? But it also it's a really good game at its core, right?
I think with Balatro, you were just wondering, why is my friend zombified by this game? Let me figure this out. And then next thing you're like, and then it's too late. You became zombified.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it's been
so
5 days and I haven't seen outside.
Yeah. What's going on?
So here's the thing. Like, I was just like looking up, like, because I was curious of like, okay, who is the studio behind like Hello Kitty Island Adventure? I'm like, it's all over the place. So it's made by Sunblink, and I'm just pulling up their company info on LinkedIn. It's basically they've only made, this is like their biggest game. They made another game called Hero-ish. That's literally what it was called.
Okay.
But they list on their LinkedIn profile that basically that company has 11 to 50 employees. 11 to 50 employees, and we're looking at, and then we're comparing with, like, say, Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Don't tell BioWare that.
Exactly. Don't tell BioWare that. Basically, where you need to you need to let go 100 because 100.
You out.
Gotta get out of there. Like, it's just that's the games that these AAAs are competing with, like or that everyone's competing with nowadays. So it really all it takes is one. All it takes is one game to basically to hit the zeitgeist of it. Like Helldivers was that for this time last year. Now this year it's Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Like, and I love it. And I love this because at the end of the day, regardless of all the issues of studios, and of course, like it's super sucks to be able to see like layoffs and just the way the industry is going right now. At the end of the day, the people who still win out in the end are gamers, because just the amount of games that are coming out that are good, that are fun, that are a blast to play, and it sort of hit that element that we kind of need at that particular moment. And people are finding their new favorite games that they would have experienced before, all just because either they're friends or they saw some people talking about it online. And like, I would not have known about Hello Kitty Island Adventure if it wasn't for you guys or like basically other of my friends who are just jumping in and playing it. Like, I would not, that would have completely passed me by. I'd be like, okay, it's a kid's game, whatever. But because a lot of people are playing it right now, I'm like, I wonder if maybe that might be something I might check out. So, yeah.
I was like, oh, let me download it. And then I was like, wait, is there a physical copy? Because right now we get no tax on physical copy of games. So it's like,
true. Up until the end of next week. We have end of next week for that to happen.
Canadians, get your games now.
Get your games now,
Canadians.
Yeah. Games, your toys, everything. Get
everything.
Yeah.
Apparently, I only see it digital. I don't think anyone else is doing physical copies.
I'm probably going to download it while I'm down here and give it a try. And next thing you know, I'll just be playing that.
On your
I didn't even know
PC,
I didn't even know it was a game that was already out on Apple Arcade. Like,
yes, it was originally Apple Arcade. Yeah.
Originally, it was
like that's awesome.
It did really well in Apple Arcade as well. So you have that fandom there that's like bringing it back to life, and it's like I feel so sorry if like when the Switch 2 releases, they're like, by the way, there's an update to Animal Crossing or a new Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah, then that takes it for lunch. Yeah.
What? This game is already on the Switch. It's gonna be on Switch too. So you're set.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
true.
There's gonna be a graphical upgrade for sure.
So was this game like named this because of the South Park meme?
What South Park? Wait.
There was a South Park meme I remember that were like they were making fun of Butters for people like, what game are you playing? Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Oh my god. Maybe.
You know, I don't know, because I was like, that was when I first heard about it. Like, that can't be an actual game. Like, is that made by the South Park folks?
No. That came out after it was out in Apple Arcade.
Oh, did it? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
so it was referencing the actual game and not the other way around. Okay.
Also, speaking of South Park, if you're a South Park fan or love to hate it, love to love it, check out Casa Bonita Mi Amor. It is a hilarious documentary about Trey Parker and Matt Stone, how they decided to buy a restaurant in their hometown called Casa Bonita and spend $20 million to renovate it.
Oh my God.
And this all stemmed from, Trey Parker's childhood memories of this place, the pandemic affecting it, and then also them having episodes of South Park about Cartman wanting to go to Casa Bonita, and it became a huge thing in South Park where they would always mention Casa Bonita. And when they found out the Casa Bonita was going to close forever, they decided to buy it. It is just hilarious as well to see Trey Parker jump into impressions on the spot. South Park is his personality.
Oh my God, I love that.
Also, how they tell the documentary, it's just hilarious. It's a well done documentary, period. But if you are familiar with South Park, it's just very interesting to watch, whether you love it or love to hate it.
What's it called again?
Casa Bonita Mi Amor. I think it's on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Paramount Plus.
That Boston's coming out of you.
That's cool. I'll have to check it out. That sounds great.
Camille, you want to talk about sleeping dogs, huh? What's going on? What's your questions?
Have you guys played Sleeping Dogs way back when? I can't remember.
A little bit.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
So the beloved underdog story of a franchise that became a cult classic, Sleeping Dogs, apparently is coming back in movie form. Simu Liu, who obviously is Shang-Chi in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he said on social media, it's no secret that he's a fan of games. I think he would play League a lot, and has done a lot of collaborations with gaming brands. But he said that he's working with the right holders of Sleeping Dogs IP to bring the video game in movie form. Mm-hmm. And then he went further and said that first it's to come out with the movie, then it's to come out with a sequel to Sleeping Dogs. And for those of you that are not familiar at all with Sleeping Dogs, it's kind of like Yakuza-esque, but it focuses on Hong Kong and, the triads and kind of everything that happens there. And it's for someone who's been to Hong Kong, back when Sleeping Dogs came out, it was very much a representation. It felt like they just took pieces of Hong Kong and put it in the game in terms of environment. And it created a really fun story and a fun experience around it. So as a fan of the game, I'm really excited that we're hearing about Sleeping Dogs because I feel like it's a franchise that's been slept on. But also I'm concerned because video game movies. They don't usually do well. And I'm also concerned, even though I like Simu Liu, I just think if he's planning, it could go bad, man. I'm scared. I'm scared of How do you guys feel about, celebrities that are fans of video games that they grew up with or grew up playing? Henry Cavill, no secret in his love for all gaming PC and obviously Warhammer. But how do you feel about celebrities that are trying to get involved in the IPs that they love? Not necessarily, I think getting involved maybe as an executive producer and trying to make it come to light, but also get involved on the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the part I have hesitations with, because we saw with The Witcher, with Henry Cavill I think, the reason, the rumors as to why, I don't know if it was confirmed, but why he left the show was because he wanted things to be very much told in the perspective of the books, and felt the script was not aligning with that, and then decided to leave. So like he was trying to stay very true, and obviously mixed reactions from fans of the books and the video game, and appreciation for him like standing his ground as a fan. I think a lot of people had, but then you could also have a flip side where fandom. I think especially of a video game, your own experience, because you're playing through the game, your experience with that character is what dictates what you feel that game is about, even though like you have the environments, the visuals, everything like that, but what you really want to emphasize of that story if you're bringing in a movie adaptation or a TV adaptation. I think that could sometimes be misrepresented by the majority of fans. So how do you guys feel about celebrities getting involved in a creative level with beloved IPs?
I personally think it's like if they're fans of the IP that and they feel like it's and we've seen the sort of creative vision being utilized in a cool way, that I think that yes, I think because we have to sort of see could the projects that they create on their own, regardless of the IP that they're interested in, could they be able to carry a show like that or a movie, but then also as well, as long as if they are also fans of that, instead of just being like, oh, I remember Splinter Cell once, or I remember Sleeping Dogs once, like it just, I'd be interested to trying that out or playing that, whatever. But like that's why I sort of see like someone like say Henry Cavill, who's really into Warhammer, that I like seeing him still at the helm of whatever project is happening at Amazon for whatever Warhammer project he's doing, that it's still happening. That I'm like, okay, all right, I trust him to be able to make, as he knows how to make stuff, and it like he is also like you can see that with The Witcher, regardless of any conflicts he had with the studio, a lot of what like kind of made The Witcher the series what it was because of the reference to the source material. So I think it could. I think if Simu wants to be able to create this film franchise for Sleeping Dogs, and then also potentially help in creating a sequel game, or at least help gain interest for it, I think that, hey, all the better. But yeah, I think you got to be a fan of it in order for, instead of just being like it's an IP that people know about and I just want to jump in on it.
Yeah, like he definitely sounds like he's a fan of the series, and the way that I could just like, I just don't want him to be like, well, this is my vision of it type of thing. Like I want him to work along with whoever's like the lead writer from the first game, like work hand in hand together with it, and then you can use like your Hollywood creativity of like, oh well, we should shoot it this way, or it should be told this way, type of way. So
yeah, that's good. That's a good point too.
It'll be very interesting. The thing is, I haven't really seen or heard of him like, well, I did an episode of like Kim's Convenience. Like I directed that episode. Like I haven't, like this be like his first one he's tackling. Like
yeah, well, I think he's directed like shorts. I know like him and the stunt coordinators that worked on Shang-Chi. I think they like one of them is actually like Canadian and worked with him here, like to coordinate like skits and stuff like that before Simu met his Shang-Chi fame. But yeah, I think it's like interesting to start with a movie given the hurdles of video game movies instead of going with the revival of the game, especially because in 2017 there were talks about a Sleeping Dogs movie starring Donnie Yen.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, and Donnie Yen's not the age he was back then. I mean, he could probably still do everything because he's just amazing in terms of stunts. But like, that's like a huge feat, and also for a different audience, right? That would appreciate that more than a mainstream audience. So I think it would have been more wise, instead of him stating that he wants to do the movie first, because he's been pitching it and trying to have studio execs understand the game and how it could bring value to the box office. I think it would have been better to have a revival of the video game to show that interest, because Square Enix put out the first game. So I think they are the rights holders. I think he has to like negotiate with Square Enix to get the IP rights to work on the movie.
By the way, the game's like $350, right? Or $374 on Steam right now.
It's such a good game.
Yeah,
Obviously,
definitive edition. Yeah.
Going back and playing any old game, you have to understand like camera mechanics, like all that stuff is going to be a hurdle to go back and try to play it. But it's like I really would have wanted to see him more get involved behind the scenes to renew a franchise that he loves, rather than just going to star in it first.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
Yeah, I'd rather see him as like the character for the sequel than maybe you could tackle the movie. Like I feel like you're kind of getting like the cart before you get the horse situation here.
Yeah.
So.
But it could be a success, so who knows?
You never know. That's if it takes off as well, or maybe they do the video game first before the movie. You never know. So it'll be very interesting. But yeah, go pick that up right now. $374 on your brand new computer, Camille. So
there you go.
It's
using my new graphics card.
New graphics card right now. It's part of a lunar New Year's sale right now. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so if not, you'll be paying $25. So you don't want to do that. So no. Well, with that being said, that's gonna be it for this week of Gaming Podcast. Steve, what's going on for you for the rest of the week?
So I'm basically going to be streaming some, like, actually, well, when this goes up, I've been playing Silent Hill 2 for the first time. So I've been playing that this week on stream. So if you want to check it out, twitch.tv/Steve Saylor. I'll probably have the VODs up. I'm hoping to be able to have the VODs up sometime this week on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SteveSaylorPlays. I also have going up this week. So last week I did a D&D subathon called Dragon Games.
Right?
Yeah.
Ash,
yeah. So we had Elbel, Thormagander, we had Ashlina, and then we had Data Dave coming in as a surprise guest, and then also Ash. Yeah, then Ash said hi as playing the dragon in the Dragon Games. So it was a ton of fun. I'm gonna have the VODs up of that on my also on my Steve Saylor Plays YouTube channel as well. It'll be split up into two parts. Basically, the first half is the dungeon delve, that's the first 4 hours, and then the last 2.5 to almost 3 is the dragon fight. So yeah, that'll be coming up, and then I can say that I can at least mention it right now is that I am playing Avowed. And I'll have a review of that going up on I believe next week. We can I think we can say that.
Yes.
So I can't remember what day. So
I can't remember the date either.
Yeah, I forgot the day. So
I think it's the end of the week, right?
Yeah. So it'll be up, but unfortunately, I'll also be out of the next week's episode of with you guys because I'll be in Vegas for Dice Summit. So yeah, but yeah, that's going to be it for the rest of the week.
Awesome. Camille, how about yourself?
What am I doing with my life?
Well, you're in Boston for something.
You're in Boston.
I just remembered, yes. So I'll be here chilling. I have started streaming. So please follow my Twitch channel. Please, when I come back from traveling, I will be streaming regularly because now I have the GPU to do it.
There you go.
Don't forget to change your encoder.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I know, I did. But yeah, in the next coming week, honestly, just chilling, putting some stuff up on my YouTube. It's been a while, I'm sorry. And then playing Avowed when I get back. I can't wait to play Avowed when what am I doing here? Oh, Rainbow Six Siege has their 6th Invitational, and it is going to be really fun. Usually I do the yearly panels, but I'm not on a panel this year, so I'm going to be taking in the 6th Invitational as a fan, but something may be announced. And then, I'll be able to talk about it, and we'll be able to have fun about what to expect later in the year for Siege. So I'm excited for that.
Camille knows stuff. That's basically all we know.
Yeah, that's all I heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the NASCAR. We're in season. for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We have races every other Tuesday pretty much, but you can check the schedule at enascar.com/live. And I'm hosting their Countdown to Green show, their pre-show for the race. The competition is very fierce this year. We're having lots of fun on Countdown to Green as well. So our next race is next Tuesday night.
Cool. Awesome. Cool stuff. For me, yeah, I'm also playing a Val, which, by the way, the embargo is on the February 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm also I can say I have also played the preview for South of Midnight, and so look out for I can't remember what date that one is. I didn't look that one up. So
all you know is you can talk about. You can say
I can talk about next time, maybe. Yeah. I think, yeah. But I've played the preview for it. So, but pretty much it's just February is a crazy month. I'm looking at my list here, and it is insane
and check
here.
Out Marcel, twitch.tv/MD.
Yeah, if you want.
12?
14. Even I forgot my number.
14, yeah.
14, yeah. 13, 14, yeah.
14.
14,
all numbers are the same.
All numbers in there because Monster Hunter comes out very soon. So.
The end of February.
Yeah, it is Black History Month, so support.
And Black History Month. Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah, I actually will be on the front page of Twitch as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you were alley-ooping, but the ball just hit me in the face. I was like, huh? Why'd you throw the ball? Why'd you throw the ball in my face for?
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
I'm trading you.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, you know what? Pull up for Dallas. I'm going to LA. Now you're pulling up for Dallas.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Trade me. You know, what a dumb trade that was, man.
That was such a dumb trade.
That was the dumbest trade
ever. They got nothing out of it.
Like nothing. The Lakers were like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure.
Perfect.
And apparently it's due just because he likes to eat a little more. That's it. That's what I heard.
No way.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing. He has a few extra pounds.
The coach said they needed more defense on the team. He's not a defensive player, but I mean,
he's not a defensive player. Come on.
You lose your best player to get a defensive player.
They're screwed.
Yeah.
That's it. Anyway, see you all here next week, everyone. Bye.